Good evening. Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting. We're going to get started at 6:31. Um, just want to recap some of the stuff we talked about for camping, for the camping ordinance, or potentially proposed camping ordinance from last time, because we do want to get that in as we're getting to camping time. So some things we want to get in place is 72 hours for tents in yards, I guess. Campers and RVs, which is already in which is already in code right now, which is can't be on city streets, but then allowing in driveways that they could get connected to power if somebody was coming through to visit you, that they could get a permit for up to 7 days in the city. So we were thinking, Justin, you weren't here at the last meeting.
Right.
If like grandparents or family was coming through town and they were going to visit, to allow people to get an exemption, because right now the way the code reads is, you're not allowed to like run an extension cord or whatever. But we were just saying that to allow some kind of permitting process, so somebody could do that for like 7 days, but then after that, you would be fined according to code as it exists. And then the big one is about campgrounds in the city limits. And I did do some more research, and a lot of those rules that we talked about last time come into play when there's 50 or more campsites. But I know, Carla, you and I both, I think, were on the same page that we felt that within the city limits, a campground should have plumbed bathrooms, running water, especially depending on where they are along the river, that we want those things in place. I think this is something we need to think about, though, with like the Nelsonville Music Festival. So when they have temporary camping sometimes, that we need to create language in there for exemptions for them, for those type of events. And then, right. Scott, what's the big event that we're going to have in September?
It's the BMW motorcycle event.
Yeah.
And then Hocking College is in the process of already putting in a campground over there on their side, concrete spots. And the original intent, my understanding, was the equine students could bring their rig, their trailer or whatever, and stay in there. But I believe her intent in the summertime is to rent those spots out.
But does that fall under us or no?
Well, like still be within the city.
Yeah. If it's in the city, we can create regulations for it, for whatever. Then there's also state regulations around campgrounds that also go into play, whether you're in the city or outside of the city. So yes, we can regulate camping businesses in town. Then state regulations also come to play. Like I said, but a lot of those state regulations have to do if there's more than 25 or 50 campsites. But for the city, we can make it if you're going to have a campground within city limits, that we want certain things, especially because I think both of these are along the river. So we talked about some concern there about, especially if they're not permanent restroom facilities, that people might not feel inclined to use a porta potty and instead, relieve themselves in the river or something, and we want to discourage that. So, Yes, Mr. Taylor.
So 2 questions. I'll ask both now so I don't forget them. One, would we receive any type of lodging tax on campgrounds?
That's another thing I have.
And 2, if people come into town with campers, do we have the ability, either with the old sewer plant or with the new sewer plant, of maybe providing a dump station and maybe charging a nominal fee for that service?
So I know Hocking College is making arrangements already. They're putting in a lift station on their side for the full hookup sites. So I don't know that they're going to have a full-on dumping station, But as far as adding one on, it would just be a matter of getting with Phil and finding a location that we could tap into the sewer and direct through, and then charge for it as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking if we were gonna have, if there were gonna be additional camp areas in town or close to town, that if we provided that service, that might be a benefit to people.
I think honestly, probably a benefit regardless, right, when people are traveling, you know, that, when you're in a recreation area, which our region is, that having that, would be useful. I think the question would be how, you know, would it just be free of charge to use, or we would, and how would that payment work? You know, you would have to have somebody there to do it.
Or potentially, maybe since our one current facility is close to where Mr. Roll is putting his new business, maybe we can talk to him, maybe he can offer that as a service, because there should be sewer hookup there, or since he's doing a lot of outdoor stuff already, and then maybe if he benefits, then we still benefit. So.
Yeah. I also though do feel that we need to put, I think we need to talk to the auditor about this. Would the county lodging tax apply to campgrounds, or does it not? What does that look like? But I do feel that they should pay, you know, a lodging tax, and because we also need to go back and clean up that language in existing code surrounding like Airbnb, which is not super clear right now because we talk about B&Bs.
Right, but Airbnbs also pay currently. Airbnb
should.
is set up to
Yeah.
pay city. I know that. If there's county, there's definitely. If there's cities, there's definitely county.
Yeah.
They both will pay both.
Yeah. Mr. Sherman, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it's about every campground I ever stayed at, must have a dumping station.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
One
Once
thing-
had a dumping station, and you can put a flow meter on those.
Okay.
Because, you know, even if you run out of fuel hookups, people have holding tanks on their RVs and they don't want to slush them out along as they travel. So I think that might be even state mandated, because I never stayed at a campground that didn't have at least a dumping station for holding tanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, according to what I've been reading in Ohio revised code and Ohio administrative law, I'm not a lawyer, but I can't read. It seems that some of those regulations apply to like if you have a certain number, again, of campsites. So like if it's over 25 or 50. So, but again, this is different because we're talking about like within the city. I also think that there's a distinction there between, you know, like a rural campsite and a, you know, within city limits campsite. Did you have?
The only thing I was going to add is my experience through the Midwest gas stations usually had a lane for the dumping stations, and maybe instead of us, you know, taking on that and trying to collect, because even with the flow meter, who's going to collect the money for that?
Right.
And will it pay for itself? I would guess not. So maybe we can talk to one of our businesses in town and see if that's something they could do, or maybe even Bernie's got the room out there for him to have a big one that people could come off.
Yep. When I talked to Bernie this week, he said he's not planning on doing any kind of full hookup RV things right now. No plan for a dump station at this point in time. So I think that's something we can entertain. So I think we have like some good basic ideas for what we want to add to code for camping rules. So again, just need to circle back with the health department to see kind of what's already in place there. We don't want to be redundant, and we want to be in line with what exists from the state already, and then get that out there because I know this is a priority. It's already March 15th. You know that we want to get this in place for, you know, the upcoming summer months in particular.
So who would be in charge of, I seen it, it's right on the river. Who would be in charge of making sure, like, you know, all the, I don't want to say crap, litter and stuff just did not end up in the river? Who would be responsible for
that would be the owner of the business that they would have to monitor that. So Scott and I have talked, and we have to talk to Becky about like floodplain, floodway, what kind of permits and stuff that they will need regardless to put camping in down there. But yeah, I mean, obviously the business owner, will need to monitor their environmental impact, having something like that close to the river.
I guess, I mean, would there be like a fine or something if we notice it's just turned, like it's not getting done?
Sure, that'd be
I
a
think
code,
we like
code
it-
issue.
That would be a code issue, yeah, and then ultimately probably like an EPA issue if it was really bad.
She doesn't hesitate to cite for rubbish.
So as far as I know, Mr. Roll and his company's always been very good about that. They run all those tubing things and canoeing things, and I've never heard anyone ever complain that there's like trash in the river.
His site was
Like,
always clean. From
Yeah,
what I can remember.
exactly. So
I guess I just meant from the camp.
yeah, from the camping, yes, I understand what you're saying too, but like I just want to say, Mr. Roll's always been a very good partner in that regard. So yeah, but they would have to monitor that. But then again, Becky, as the code enforcement officer, would make sure that that was being taken care of. So, do we have any comments about?
Not camping, just ATVs.
Okay, so we're gonna get on to that next topic, which is ATV friendly. And I guess, so just following up, like bringing people who are watching right now up to speed on what we've talked about at past meetings, which is that I think we all would like to propose a trial run of ATV friendly in town for this summer. So whether that's, May 1st to Labor Day or Memorial Day to Labor Day to give it a trial run, allowing for, now this is what I went back and looked at my notes from previous meetings where we talked about doing, like creating corridors for this. So like Door Run to Canal Street. So basically all of Canal Street, but like Door Run to Canal, Madison Street to Canal, Borough Boulevard to Canal, and then Rocky Boot Way up to the square. So people could access the square.
Okay, I have a
businesses.
problem with that one.
Okay. So I talked to the Chamber of Commerce, and they want people to be able to get to the square to
Right.
take advantage of all businesses and not only businesses on Canal Street.
But it's like one block from Canal. I mean, if we could figure out more of a parking, I mean, ATVs parked up on the square, mix them with people that are already up there, the vehicles, the pedestrian traffic. I mean, everything else sounds good, the main route, Canal Street and everything, but going up that one, to have to drive one block, and then where are they gonna park?
They can park on the street.
They could,
Yeah.
but
They're-
we try
they're-
to always promote Nelsonville as this, beautiful, quiet, unique town, and then you're just gonna have ATVs
So,
driving through and sitting
I-
around.
I would submit that ATVs actually make us unique as well. It brings people to town who wouldn't normally.
I don't argue any of that part, just being uptown.
I mean,
I think
that's,
if they would be, like, we have the pool area, we have some other parking lots that aren't really in use all the time.
There's very, very little parking at the pool. For that,
And if
I mean-
the pool's open, then
Yeah.
that's gonna be filled.
yeah, with people for that. The Hockey Valley Scenic Road, they have their parking lot. It's Rocky Boots, it's their parking lot. It's the Oxford, we don't have a public parking lot.
Right, it would be
So-
something we would have to look into.
We have street parking. So I personally don't have a problem with it. I love the historic nature of our town, the uniqueness of it. But I will say that, this area, our region, our area is much more now a recreation destination than like an arts destination. We still have great art, art things here, but I do feel like we need to allow, again, these people to be able to get to the square if we want to create economic impact to our town, and which is what this is about. It's about creating an opportunity for our town to take advantage of the number of people coming to this area to explore it recreationally. And not only from ATVs part of it, but then, we're also going to eventually have the New Bailey
Yep.
trailhead out in Nelsonville. So I think it's something that we have to try. And I know that a lot of people feel strongly that like ATVs are loud and noisy and dirty. The newer ones, and especially more people are going to those side-by-side types, are like golf carts. I mean, they're not.
Some of them are quieter than some of the
And
cars.
that's
Yeah.
something I've looked at, decibel levels of stock side by side, which is what we see the most of, because those are the people that travel. Those people driving $20,000 ATVs with, $20,000 campers and a $50,000 truck. They aren't they won't be the issue. And the stock level is less than that of a diesel pickup truck, which we see in town all the time. We see the ones that are modified and altered with smokestacks and all. We all hear those go by our houses, and I hear it all the time up and down my road. But however, Dan he's got one.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we can do as a city too is circle back. The state law is that everything has to be properly equipped, has to have a muffler, has to have lights, has to be a licensed driver driving the thing. So we're not going to have 13-year-old kids driving around the city streets.
Oh, absolutely not yet.
They have to be titled. They have to be insured. So it's just like driving a motor vehicle. But one of the things we can do ourselves is add a requirement that it not be more than X amount of decibels. And maybe as a city, that's something Corey and I kind of discussed a little bit, we can have not necessarily registration, but an inspection. And I think they did it a few years ago with golf carts. Come over and say, okay, we're going to check, we're going to make sure your lights are good. We're going to check, make sure you got your eye protection. We're going to check, make sure your muffler's good. We'll make sure it's not too loud, because we don't want you coming to our town if you're going to come and disrupt everyone's life. And that's not what we're looking for. I don't think those are the people we're going to have issues with. I think people have issues with are the people who want to bring out something hacked up and jaked up and all that stuff, and that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people who have money to bring it to town and spend it with us.
They want to ride the trails.
Who want to ride the trails.
No,
exactly.
and be able to come off the trail and come to the gas station and come and get a sandwich for lunch and
Go
you know,
Rocky.
and go, yeah.
I would propose, you're talking about doing a trial run period. The trails are open from April 15th to December 15th now. So I would propose trying to follow those timeframes. So that's to capture, a full season of the trails. But the trails do run 24/7. So I'd also propose maybe time restrictions, dusk till dawn, kind of like a park
Yes.
type of thing, because you don't want them running up and down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Whose committee is this anyway? Oh, it's Elizabeth's.
Point of order, Mr. Booth.
Overruled.
Okay.
So, and that
Incorrect
was,
use, but okay.
and that was something I was going to propose also. We can make it where they have to be, back at their campsites or wherever by 7 o'clock. Because most everything in town, restaurants and everything else, closes around that time. Maybe they can't come into town until 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, and I think also, Corey, because I also looked into that on Wayne National Forest regulates that they can't be more than 50 inches wide. So which are like the smaller side by sides. So they're not like the huge ones. So I think that's also going to help from a noise perspective.
They are trying to get some of their trails to be bigger because they keep making those side by sides bigger. But there are a couple of them with tunnels and stuff that they won't be able to probably ride on if they go underneath the highway. I don't think they made those wide enough.
Mr. Sherman?
Well, do you think you can sell, like weekend passes or whatever? They have to have a permit or pass for that weekend or the whatever.
Well, we can't necessarily sell permit, but
Well, what are you gonna do about,
an inspection?
what are you gonna do about well, they gotta buy passes to go to trails,
Well, that there was way more is correct.
so they should have to buy a pass to drive the city. Or
Can't do it.
a permit, no? So what are you gonna do about, because we have some ATVs running up 4th Street this weekend. So what are we gonna do about the people that throw their little kid on the back of their bike or push them in the front and goes wheeling her down Canal Street and somebody hits them with a car or?
That's where our illustrious police force
Yeah.
is gonna come in handy, because they're gonna enforce it. Chief Judge
Is
is
there
gonna
an
enforce
age
it.
limit on, can there be a licensed driver to drive on the street?
Yes,
ATV?
you
There
have to
is,
be,
yeah.
you have to be 16, you have to be a licensed driver, you have to be insured, and you also
There's all
have to have it
kinds of
registered with the state.
So I guess my main concern, I'm really glad for the economic impact. The only thing that really concerns me is there's 7 of us. And are we really seriously listening to all the people, or are we listening to the people that agree with us?
Well, so, right, I mean, there's a couple ways we can look at this. Like I said, I've spoken to, like, you know, the Chamber of Commerce, and they're supportive, and I think especially what we're talking about is a trial. So I appreciate that the trails are open April to December. To me, we want to try this out. I don't want to say April to December. I want to do a smaller period of time right now, see how it works, and then if come, you know, Labor Day, like the whole summer, we've had no issues, it's gone really well, we're seeing a lot of business in town, then we could extend it. But to me, that's kind of a compromise also, for our citizens, not saying, you know, a 6-month trial, we're looking at a 3-month, 4-month trial.
I think it'd be
Right.
hard, because it'd be hard to gauge the economic impact of 3 or 4 months when we're a month out basically from when the trails actually open. And how are you gonna get the word out to thousands of people, right, to be able to get 100 people?
I would
So-
rather gauge how it's
I
gonna
think it'd be
work
tough.
rather than how much we're gonna make the first time, because you know it's gonna make money. I mean, you know it'll have an economic impact.
I think it will over time. I don't think it will
Well,
immediately.
it certainly would be more, it would be more evident in years, coming, forward. But I'm with Carla, let's see if our processes work. If
But
we
I
have big
guess,
issues.
so I was wondering also, have we talked to the actual homeowners? I mean, I know
Well,
some have
that's
reached
why-
out.
We're talking about keeping it on certain corridors, so it's not gonna be like going up 4th Street or whatever, you know? We said Borough Boulevard because I believe Bookdole is already ATV friendly.
So it's
And they could go Borough Boulevard out to, you know, get those trails out that way.
Or they come off Snake Hollow.
Or come up, yeah, if they wanted to come off that way,
Which they
but-
come directly off the trails.
but not come down 4th Street. But, you know, Door Lane, because there's trailheads up that way, you know, down to Canal Street. You know, Madison, the same thing, there's trailheads out past Carbon Hill, because I believe Carbon Hill is ATV friendly.
It's the
already.
area in between. that's the
Yeah,
issue,
it's, I know,
that's
there
the
is like a little dead area there, but, you know, trying to be accommodating, but again, no, you can't run up Adam Street, you can't, you know, they're not gonna be able to go up 4th Street, you know, we'll need signage, there's gonna be things we need to do. There's actually, currently some, grant possibilities, for like transportation improvement districts that I think we're gonna look at to see if we can utilize, something there to help, with this. I know that, again, you know, people talk about noise and nuisance and whatever, but I feel like, you know, we've all talked about this, like, we need to try, and not just think the worst is gonna happen. And that's the good thing about doing a trial, right? I mean, we can say it, and if it,
I think even in our area, it's been proven that it can be done, without big issues in New Straitsville and Carbon Hill, and, I
I
think
think as
there's,
long as we stay off the residential streets, it's not going to cause,
we definitely don't want to cause big issues to the homeowners, for sure. But I think once it moves forward, it'd be evident to everybody that it's great for our city. The more people we can bring to town for tourism, the better. That's where we live now. No one's opening a factory. No one's, bringing a bunch of industry to town. So this is what we've got. Let's, I say we work with.
I heard from a citizen today who was concerned about noise, but again, she, you know, on that residential street, that would not be an approved like corridor for these, for ATVs to go on. I know there's some other comments, for that. And as we're saying, you know, like our police department will be involved in monitoring it. You know, they have to be licensed. You know, people driving them, it's not, it's not like we're opening it up and saying, you know, a 12-year-old can go down the street driving it, and, you know, you have to be a licensed driver. Yeah.
I have a silly question, and probably, because I see people already driving side-by-sides and golf carts with license plates on the back. If all these side-by-sides get license plates on them, they're free to roam about anyways, aren't they?
They're
So you can't stop them from going on the residential streets or wherever they want
Right.
to go.
That's a state law.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they're already street legal.
Unless it's over a certain miles per, unless it's like 55 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's the low.
But if it's under.
Right, if they
50
have,
miles,
that's a new state law, right? If you have a windshield, if you have
mirrors,
headlights, taillights,
Brakes,
a license plate,
brake lights,
brakes, I think turn signals, all of that on your golf cart or side, side by
we
side or whatever,
technically can't stop them from going
it's
that.
legal anyway. This is, I think when people hear ATV, a lot of times they think those old, four-wheelers.
Yeah, I think people will scream up and down the
You
road
know.
and cause havoc everywhere they go.
which do still exist and people do still use those. But I think what you see more of anymore is the side by sides, and even the newer four wheelers are small or not as loud.
Right, they're quieter, yes. They're making them
as the
quieter all
old
time,
ones.
yes. I've looked at some of that. And these are the people that are, come to town are gonna be people like me with, a family, with kids that wanna go enjoy the outdoors. They're not coming to race. Those people do that at the racetrack down the road.
Yeah.
They're not bringing the racing four-wheeler down Canal Street. If they are, then just pull them over and give them a free air
on
snow.
the dog ground.
There it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I know you guys only have a few minutes, but
Yeah.
one other point about why I would recommend from April 15th to December 15th, their season for running, is because they also have 3 weekends during the course of the year that they allow folks to ride the trails for free. One of them happens to be Veterans Day weekend, which is a long weekend that we might be able to capitalize on and maybe get with Hawking and have camping, more around that and offer more for those weekends, because there might be more people that don't have the funds to be able to buy a yearly pass or are just going to be coming through long enough to ride it for a weekend.
So I did not look at this, like, when you get a pass to ride in like Wayne, do you have to buy it for the year or do you buy it for a weekend or days or
But
is
I
it?
think you can get a weekend pass,
It's by the
but
way.
by the year, I think is why most people buy it, because it's cheaper that way.
Okay, that's what I wondered if, if there was like, if you can come in and buy like a 2-day pass or if it's a weekend pass or, and I'll admit I had not looked into that.
And if we have that, maybe they'll come back to town more often during the season.
Right,
Buy the season
but-
pass and continue to come back 2 or 3 times in a year or whatever it is.
I do like what Corey's saying, and I think that might be something for the future, right? Then you say, okay, well, these are free weekends, so on that Veterans Day weekend, like, why aren't we having like a little festival around the square, or, with, inviting food trucks in and inviting this in and having, like a special event for that.
So would there be any parking issues we need to address, or no?
I don't think so right off. I mean, I don't think we're gonna be descended on like the 17-year locust or anything like that. You know what?
Which is happening.
Well, that would be nice, though.
And that's what I'm saying. That would be a great problem to have. So if we look out and there's 800 four-wheelers in town on a Saturday, guess what? We'll figure it out. I'll park them in my bottom yard. I don't care. I'll shuttle them to town if I have to. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
One
so-
suggestion that was thrown out there by a citizen was, in that scenario, say, for example, Fruth opened up their parking lot and they wanted to charge $5 for parking or free parking with the purchase, so that has somebody actually go inside and buy
Perfect.
a bottle of water or
Sure.
candy bar or whatever the case
Maybe
may
a
be.
weekend, the Elks wants to charge for parking or
Right.
whatever it is. Yeah, I think there's opportunities for a lot of folks.
So Mr. Frank brought up a good point, though, about restrictions of the Wayne for noise, and they do, with engines that emit a noise of excess of 99 decibels at 20 inches from the exhaust outlet. That's their
What was
noise,
the number?
99
99.
decibels at 20 inches from
Diesel truck's about
the
100.
exhaust outlet.
Okay,
So, some municipalities are less, they're 94, 95, so it's right in that range. That's the high end of the range, is the stuff I've seen. But diesel trucks 100, so that's, if we can keep it below that, I think that's a good thing. We hear those every day.
And we need to pull over one on Fourth Street and see if it's below 100.
Were they wearing a helmet?
I can stop them. No, we're not.
No, they were not working. So that should be a call to the police department.
Absolutely. If you see that,
What
please
is
call
it?
the police.
Because they need to be wearing
Someone
helmets
straight over
too.
the four-wheeler yesterday.
The
Right.
four-wheeler, if they were not wearing a helmet, then they need to, police need to be called.
Yeah, I mean, so, in that case, and I understand, and that's what one of the citizens who contacted me today, she had mentioned that somebody was going by her house yesterday, but, so that's happening
Already.
already, that's an isolated incident, with somebody who's, maybe not even old enough to drive, I have no idea, right?
It's
You don't have to drive.
Okay,
That's just one they were lucky the police department wasn't
Yeah.
around to take care of.
Yeah, correct. I see, I have an issue with bicycles in town all the time, especially at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning where they come running through stop signs on Madison Street coming into town or coming down, off of Clinton onto Fourth Street they don't stop,
mhm.
blow the sign.
You're gonna get my dad all fired up because they blow that stop sign at Railroad Street. Oh, they're
Oh,
gonna slow down
yeah.
for it.
As somebody who uses the bike path a lot, I see that all the time, and I think they're lucky that they don't get hit. Those
No, I
bicyclists
know, I
are
see
just-
stop sign runners all the time.
Yeah, for sure,
Which our police have
Those
been
really
stopping
aren't
the
legal,
kids and
so
teaching them.
we're all right.
yeah.
Hey, that's about
So,
education. Heck, yeah.
So obviously,
The mayor.
we appreciate the public comment on this, and, feel free, to reach out to different council members if you wanna, add more, as we shore up, what this is gonna look like for our trial run. But I think that the consensus really from council is, and from the committee, is that we do feel like this is something that will be a positive impact to the city, once we figure out all the different logistics, from it. And it is our intention to keep it out of, like to keep it in certain corridors and keep it out of like residential neighborhoods. So, you won't have this, and again, limit the time, so, you're not gonna have a pack of ATVs going by your house at midnight, after they've been, somewhere,
Out on the trails all day or whatever it is, yeah.
so.
Yep, exactly.
And I have talked to a lot of members of the community that actually are
Yeah,
okay with it. They're fine.
most people, I mean, I'll be honest, I've talked to some people who I think in the past were very adamant that they were against it, but they recognize now that this area has become such a recreation destination, and we are getting some of that bleed over from Hocking Hills already, that in doing this, I really feel that we're going to invite more of that, and it will make a positive impact on our community moving
And-
forward.
And you know what, if it doesn't work,
That's right.
we don't have to renew it for next year.
That's why it's a trial, and it's not something that we're gonna do,
Because we can, at the end of the year, we can look and see what worked, what didn't.
Yeah.
See if it's worth fixing what our issues are, or
or abandoning
maybe
it.
it's a great success and we move on, or it didn't work. And
So we need to get right on that since it's March 15th.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
So when do you want to meet again?
So with that, well, our next
You know, I can't read fast,
scheduled,
you scroll.
our next scheduled planning and development meeting is April 19th. Are you thinking you want to meet before?
Yes.
So I would propose March 29th. Monday,
Okay,
March
is that-
29th, Monday, March 29th,
2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from
Sure.
tonight.
That works.
Is it hard for you to get here at 6:30?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Is 6:30 good for you?
No, good.
Is 6:30? Let's do 6:30.
That way we can have more time.
Yep.
Well, yeah. All right, Scott, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to adjourn this meeting. There's going to be a finance meeting starting up in about probably 3 minutes. So thank you.
Gary Scott's all over the board.